Hey everybody, I'm a frog, which many of you know, but what you may not know is that I was actually once human, until one day an evil witch laid a curse on me, making me what I am today, autistic. I don't play many new games, and many have said this makes me a boomer even though I'm only 24 years old. So for this video, for once, I thought I'd give a new game a shot, and my choice was Once Human, a multiplayer survival game, which is a genre I've never played before. So naturally, I loaded up the game and chose the Way of Winter server, which gave me a warning at the start that it was for experienced players only and I should probably choose a different one. Instead of listening, I simply read this warning out loud in a nerd voice. For a smoother start, the novice season is recommended, to which it had no rebuttal. Once Human themselves generously offered to sponsor this video. It's free to play, so if you're interested in trying a terrifying survival game filled with creepy monsters who are also once human, there's a link in the description for you to check it out. Let's hop in. Unfortunately, there's no way to play as a frog, so first things first, I had to create a character. All the presets look like K-pop stars, so I had my work cut out for me. Thankfully, the character editor is very detailed and I could experiment. My first design looked like every safe, sleazy internet zoomer and millennial. My second was a perfect Giga Chad, the pinnacle of mankind. But eventually, I just settled for a normal enough looking white dude because if you've seen my live streams, you know that's what I am. Ribbit. I named my character Frogs Are Chris, and we're off. I was carried by a weird bird into the snowy landscape of the Way of Winter server, where it was imperative for me to build a shelter and warmth immediately to avoid freezing to death. Once Human is, after all, a survival game. The forces of nature and evil are against you, meaning you need to prepare to battle monsters as well as meet your own survival needs. It's also a multiplayer survival game. It's better to play with friends, but given that I have none, I was on my own. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how to get the bird to fly me down faster, so this took me a minute. Upon landing, there were a few reindeer on the road who I started hunting because if there is a Santa, he would understand that I had no other choice. Most of the reindeer fled upon me killing the first one, except for this stupid one with zero survival instinct. I see this as me being an agent of natural selection. Your bird companion talks to you throughout the game, and in our first conversation, he was like, "Hey dummy, it's freezing cold, where are your sleeves?" and told me to set up a base camp. I started chopping down trees, mining rocks, built a crafting table, and built my camp, which acts as a respawn point and lets me craft simple items. What kind of simple items can you craft at a camp, you ask? Great question, my astute viewer. I crafted a torch, which would help keep me warm and serve as a tool for bludgeoning my foes. I also crafted military-grade winter digital camo clothes, which not only increase my HP, but also look really sick. A campsite is a fine thing to start with. When you play Once Human, you may feel completely satisfied with just a campsite, but not me. If I wanted to not only survive, but also thrive, I'd want to make a house. But not just any house, a beautiful house with lots of thought, care, and effort put into it. Perfection. The inside of the house was completely dark because I couldn't make lights, and there were also no windows because I didn't have glass. But I don't care about that because I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Any counter evidence to this you believe you've seen is simply in your imagination. After building my house, I was standing on my camp and accidentally started moving it around. Canceling this action reverted it to where it was, and that ended up being a mistake. You could call this a bug, but I would call it Frog being stupid. But I'm not playing this game just to stick around in the same area by my house. I wanted to explore the giant open world, meet interesting people, and maybe find the materials I needed for windows and lights. While exploring, I came across another player's house. Not to be immodest, but mine was way cooler. Then I came across a base, which was significantly cooler than my house. I met a chick who, although I don't know what exactly is wrong with her, I'm sure there's something in that I can fix her. After rizzing her up by info dumping about mako sharks, I got a pop-up saying that my sanity was low. Somehow this game knows about my real-life mental state, and my eyes were glowing bright orange. The tutorial told me I could cure insanity by sleeping in a bed, so I returned home, where I learned that I needed more hides to make a bed, so I started hunting reindeer again. And let me just say, I'd now made it to the night, I had a house, plenty of food, hadn't died yet, maybe I'm not gonna be so bad at this game. Then while looting the reindeer I'd shot, a bunch of monster men came out of the ground, and I tried to fight them off with my torch, but instead, I got absolutely destroyed. My attempt to crawl back to my house was in vain as I bled out from my first death. Upon respawning, I finally looked up at the sky and saw why the world looked a shade of pink, the reason being there was a giant red moon in the sky. This is called the Lunar Oracle, and it apparently causes things like my character going insane, getting orange laser eyes, and making enemies spawn from out of the ground while hunting reindeer. So along with the other survival elements, I guess this is something else I have to be worried about. I gotta keep up on all my survival tasks: food, water, shelter, and not wandering outside while a blood moon is spawning horrors beyond my comprehension. Speaking of horrors beyond my comprehension, while mining copper, I turned around and saw another one in the street. The intrusive thoughts won, and I approached the strange being like a dumb horror movie character, only for it to start walking in my direction. I sprinted back to my house as fast as I could because hiding in your house is like hiding under the covers. Monsters are contractually obligated to not get you. After he left, I explored some more and found another camp called Camp Igloo, despite clearly being in a giant metal structure and not an igloo. It houses lots of interesting characters like this guy who was dressed like the Joker, and this girl who found time to dye her hair purple despite us existing in a post-apocalyptic hellhole world populated by giant bus monsters. In Once Human, you can mostly aimlessly explore like I had done to this point, but what I realized was I hadn't actually accomplished anything. For example, I still hadn't found the materials I needed for glass or lights. So I decided to do more than just run around the woods and talk to people at bases. I needed to explore dangerous areas and teach the evil creatures of the world my peaceful ways, by force. After running around, I found an abandoned dock which seemed to fulfill exactly that. There were ghouls and goblins and zombies and flying bug monsters, and oh my god, what a jump scare. One flying thing started shooting laser beams at me and brought my health way down, so I bolted away and noticed a strange light in the sky. Upon arriving at this light, Stephen King's The Mist appeared and I was offered a giant minigun and told to eliminate a giant deviant. At first I thought they meant Diddy until some kind of large creature approached me in the fog. I didn't get a good look at it though because I was scared and didn't want to go near it. With all this exploration, I had finally found different pieces of scrap which you can break down for raw materials at a disassembly bench. This let me create 2 new workstations, a supplies bench and a gear bench. The gear bench you can use for making new weapons and armor, or clothes I guess in this case. It was a good start, but I wanted to scavenge even more. I still didn't have glass, and as Patrick Henry once said, give me windows and lights or give me death. I found a third base, and since the first 2 were friendly, figured this one must be too, only for the guy in front of the gate to have a health bar, so I simply turned and minded my own business, only for boss music to start playing and bullets to whiz by in my direction. Hey, bus monster.
Hey, frog.
I found another building area populated by monsters, but more importantly, it was full of more scrap that I could turn into raw materials. I continued gathering blueberries and running past Agalock album art deer until I made it to Mooseville, which had more monsters, but also even more things for me to loot. And the monsters weren't bad, just more basic zombies. Or so I thought until I pushed up to the center and saw a big hoss, a little big hoss, got rushed by a mirror man and ran as fast as I could. Except I came across a chest and succumbed to greed and thought I could get away with looting it real quick only to once again die. I mentioned when I first set up the camp that they serve as respawn points. If I was smart, I would have set one up by Mooseville since it was 1.8 kilometers away from my house and I'd now have to walk all the way back if I wanted to seek vengeance. On the bright side, I'd finally found enough glass to make windows, and fluorescent lights, which honestly made the place feel less cozy and more like a classroom, but at least I could see inside now. And look at that, a bed. When my character sleeps, for some reason he scratches his leg with his other leg like a dog. I trekked back to Mooseville, this time with 10 blueberry juices and 27 steaks. I wouldn't have to worry about any survival needs at all, only murdering demons. And killed a couple polar bears that I found. I've watched enough Animal Planet to know that I should be afraid of them. While navigating through the cold winter environment, I made the big brain play to swim through freezing cold water, not my best moment. And I came across another player, No Kill Bill, who was wearing boomer sunglasses and looked like Michael Madsen. When I got close enough to Mooseville, I set up my camp so I could respawn here instead, and it was showtime. I killed zombies, crossbowed a charging deviant, beat up the mirror man only to learn it was a portal that could teleport me to a chest, then got to work on the Victor Wembanyama monster. It had these glowing spots to shoot or whack, which did more damage, but at a certain point my health was low and I ran away. I guess some other player went and finished the job because I heard death noises, and when I went back, it was gone. It was No Kill Bill, let's go. There were more objectives to do in town though, so I got back to killing monsters only to get completely destroyed yet again. I ran back to get my stuff and hit the rift anchor only for a bunch more guys to spawn, but yet again in the middle of the chaos I got greedy, went for a chest and got obliterated. It is so over. I was learning a lot of valuable lessons from Once Human. 1, that patience is a virtue, and 2, that if alien monsters ever invaded the earth, I would be completely screwed. After respawning back at my house, I decided that my current setup wasn't gonna fly. It was fine for starting out, but now I was a seasoned Once Human player.
3 hours in.
And needed more advanced gear. So I made an AK-47, AKM, and crafted new armor that looked less cool than digital camo but gave me a higher HP boost. We are so back. I also gave my house a roof. It's the little things in life. I returned to Mooseville where I blew up a few dudes with explosive barrels and was feeling confident enough in my new gear to resume fighting monsters. While searching for a building to fight more of the undead, I found a chest and within it there was a scout hood. This was also a substantial boost for me, the problem being it didn't match anything else I was wearing, triggering my video game OCD. I teleported back to my house only to discover that the roof I'd built and was proud of had now trapped me. My new task was to return to Fort Igloo, which was a long way away, but this is when I remembered from the tutorial that the game gives you a motorcycle and me walking everywhere prior was completely unnecessary. Everyone point and laugh at Frog. I talked to NPCs, killed more reindeer, then went back to the base from earlier where people shot at me and using my new equipment I wiped them out. Almost. Things were going good until I randomly got one-shotted both in the game and in real life when I discovered Halo speedrunning. While driving around, I discovered another player's house, and this one I have to admit was cooler than mine. I stared in the window like a homeless kid in the cold watching a family eat a Christmas dinner, then raced back to my house with determination to set things right. I needed the best house anyone has ever seen, and it was time to get to work. Look at this finished house. Downstairs, I have so much more space and everything I need to survive and thrive. And upstairs, I have a bed. Based. Outside, I ran into another lunar oracle thing, and while scavenging, I was once again ambushed by deviants and killed almost immediately. The next morning, I traveled to a town inhabited by evil people where I talked to one of them named Micah, who quizzed me on my worldview, which I passed by just saying whatever the most evil option was. I went around the rest of the village, silently killing people who were dressed in all sorts of stupid outfits until I went outside and it was once again night and yet another lunar oracle. I died again. When I returned to my house, apparently a new player, or players, had set up shop and created their own village. One of these players left their door open, allowing me to go inside their house where they had an arcade machine, displayer cases, and a giant cat. After leaving the house, I was minding my own business, except it was once again a lunar oracle. Except, you know what? I have guns. I have armor. Why can't I survive? I battled valiantly against the monster men, determined not to die. Then I died again. Fuck! I looked at the map and saw that there was a quest available for Maisley and she was in danger, so I returned to my future wife and heard her speak, which was somewhat strange because it appeared as though they forgot to edit out one of her outtakes.
Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Veronica's already been on my case about it for days.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University.
I was looking on the map and saw something called a silo, which are dungeon places, and since I hadn't explored one yet, I figured what better time than the present. Inside this dungeon were the vultures, gun-toting dudes who I was taking down without a problem. That is, until I started paying attention to my ammo and realizing I was basically out. Then, to make matters worse, something called a Trimble guard spawned in, and this guy was insane. Getting behind him to damage him was really tough, and when I did, my weapons could barely even damage him. I died here a lot. Eventually, I wore down all my weapons to where they couldn't do any damage at all, and I was reduced to trying to use my tree chopping axe. After a few more deaths, I waved the white flag. For now. My mother didn't raise me to be a quitter. I returned home and stocked up, getting myself over 1,600 rounds of AK-47 ammo. I returned to the silo seeking vengeance. I blew through the first group of vultures again before once again facing off against shield guy McGillicuddy, who, I'm not gonna lie, he got me again a few times. No worries though, because I was locked and loaded and knew eventually I'd get him back, which I did. None of the other vultures after that gave me a problem at all. I was mowing them down. Eventually, I came into an area where zombies were roaming, and after dispatching them, got a pop-up saying there was some kind of anomaly. I walked on this music stage, then got teleported. What is bro doing? Okay, so a boss fight. There's a big guy with a guitar on stage and I have to Dimebag Daryl him. This isn't my first video game. I noticed lines in his health bar and figured those were different phases, and I was correct, and after getting him past the first bar, he jumped off the stage and started trying to axe murder me. I just kept dodging and shooting. You're supposed to be here with multiple people because, again, this is a multiplayer game, but I was making decent progress as just a solo player. Then I got one-shotted, and the boss fight restarted with him at full health, and kinda like before, I didn't think I had enough ammo to do this fight. So I tried fighting him again, except conserving ammo, trying to use my baseball bat a bit and slowly but surely wearing him down son of a bit. Well, I wasn't raised to be a quitter, but I also wasn't raised to be a YouTube frog, so I think it's a wash. After dying again to normal monsters, fighting a horde of flying monsters with a minigun, then dying again to monsters that I was a significantly higher level than, it hit me. I might just suck at this game. But you know what? There's lots of people who don't suck at Once Human, and you could be one of them. If you played it before, it's a good time to come back as well, since server wipes are no longer a thing and your assets are shared across servers between your different characters. And you can get all this stuff. So thanks again to Once Human for sponsoring this video, and if you want to try it yourself, there's a link in the description. Shout out to my patrons like always. Bye.